Hello folks, wanted to review this. So in 2012, I almost didn't vote for president. I figured Romney and Obama were pretty much the same. I wasn't paying that close attention to what they were saying, really. They sounded a lot the same. I wasn't that concerned about climate yet as a top priority. And so anyway, referring to this little tweet here, wanted to address a few things. This part, wanted the auto industry mission to collapse. That's good. We all should have wanted the auto industry in Michigan to collapse. It is, the big three companies that have done so much to delay the introduction and implementation of electric vehicles was finally cracking and starting to collapse, and Obama came and saved it. And Bush actually, I think, started it, and then Obama continued. And that's the thing. There was a collapse for a reason. Things need to be done differently. And instead the government just came in and said, oh, we'll save you. And what you want to protect jobs, right? But again, you're risking so many more jobs. If you're trying to protect a few jobs now and not making the car companies have to be all electric, just minor little tweaks here and there, in the right direction. Like the government had the ability to make big changes in the auto industry. If it's bankrolling, it's saving. If it's not letting it fail, it can demand changes, and it chose not to. The changes it demanded were puny, and it would have been better if the auto industry collapsed, because then people would find new jobs and do new things. And you might be like, oh, people can't handle change. Well, even if the government came in and paid people to not work at all, or paid people to go into a different job, oh, that's a change. I'm used to working in the audio industry. The thing is, changes are coming no matter what we do. And there's going to be much greater changes now because of how much global warming we've allowed to happen than there otherwise would have had to be. And we could upfront those changes and make them smaller and more bearable, even though they're tough, or we can push them off till later and create this kind of hellscape that we are moving towards every day. So yeah, at least there's better ways to do it for sure. You can make the argument, better ways to then collapse or save them, but save them to the point where they pretty much just return to the status quo. But between those two options, like status quo, return to status quo, or let them collapse, letting them collapse is the better path. Now here's an interesting one. I don't know where they get this stat from. 47% of the country, they say that he called 47% of the country losers and freeloaders. I'm curious about where he got that stat, but I'm curious also about people watching this. What do you think? What percentage of the country do you think is losers and freeloaders? Is there a percentage? I think there probably is. I think freeloaders would be ones who kind of just take and pollute and don't pay the cost of their pollution, right? Losers would be people who do that too, I guess. In which case, that might make 100% of the country losers and freeloaders, given that this level of almost 100, given that the level of pollution that we have to incur now, just to get our electricity, our food, our services, our goods, how we get around, under the current setup, under current policies and regulations, there's nobody, even homeless people, who is not living unsustainably in this country. Almost nobody. Which makes us all losers, because until these laws change, we can't be winners. And so if we want to be winners, we got to try and fight to make these laws change. So I guess on that number, who cares if he calls the country half the country loses in freeloaders. He's underestimating things, honestly. And then the last point again, Romney was terrible. As I said at the beginning, like, I almost didn't vote in 2012 because, like, in my life, I've been since 1989. I think this was, at least in my voting life, that would be 2007, I think, and onwards. This was the best Republican option that made it past the primaries into the general that we've had. So I was kind of like, either one can win, it's fine. Back then, I did ultimately vote for Obama, but like, you know, it was because a friend was like, "Come on, you got to do it. You can't just let that, not vote." And I was like, "All right, fine, whatever." But I was considering not voting, and I think, arguably, scroll down a bit. There's my thing. I don't know, somewhere here it is. He says he's somewhat better these days, but back then, in some ways he's worse these days. He's still saying we need oil and natural gas more than we actually do, delaying changing things. So I don't know. If he was terrible then, I think that's hyperbole. Anyway, I guess that's that video. Cheers.